right, everybody. Good afternoon. I think, am I the only thing stopping you from happy hour? They say the worst time is before or after lunch, but it may be this time. So thank you. I'm Shawn Weidmann, CEO of Stratford Schools. My CFO, Mike Kunde, is in the back there. And I want to come talk to you about Stratford School today. So I sit through a lot of these, and frankly, I don't know what half the companies are talking about in terms of, they just get very complex. We're a very simple model. Parents pay us to give their kids a great education, and it's no more complicated than that. We've been doing it since 1999. We now have 22 campuses spread out through California, over 6,000 students. And we'll talk a little bit about that history. I actually want to talk most about our academic results, because that, at the end of the day, is what get us our great business results. Then we'll talk a little bit about the business and where the future might take us. All right, so figure I'd just actually start off with a little video.
A preschooler wonders why dinosaurs disappeared, while a scientist develops a theory about climate change.
Take you on a little tour of many of our schools and our
students. A third grader asks why
students.
onions make you cry, while an engineer imagines windshield wipers that work like eyelids. An 8th grader reimagines a journey from the pages of Homer, while a world leader finds a path for peace. What innovators and children have in common is that they're both exceptionally good at asking questions. Asking questions is instinctive to children. The world is endlessly fascinating to them. That's how students arrive at Stratford, and that's how they should remain. Our role as educators is to build on what comes naturally to them, to fuel the curiosity that will carry them through life. At Stratford, we teach children to think critically and work collaboratively, to solve problems creatively, and to persevere when success doesn't come easily. We develop these skills across disciplines while forging deep connections between students and faculty. Our culture of connectivity promotes social intelligence, cultural sensitivity, and community. We cultivate connections where students are heard and seen, and where parents feel their children are understood. We teach this way so that students don't simply advance from one grade, or one subject, or one skill set to the next. We teach this way so they are uplifted at every stage, so they learn with purpose and brim with confidence. Our responsibility as educators is to encourage children's natural curiosity to grasp for things they don't yet understand, and unleash their courage to grasp opportunities others don't yet see. This, we believe, is most predictive of their future success. Stratford School. The curiosity to reach, the courage to grasp.
Our founder, Sherry Adams, who's still with us and still runs the schools. If she was here, you'd know, because she'd end up crying at the end of each of those. So there's our first class, and there's Sherry, actually, if I can point with it, right there at the top there. She was our founder back in 1999. That was the entire school back in 1999. We sat and fit into 4 classrooms in the back of a church. Founded, kind of in that boom times in the Bay Area. And from those 4 classrooms, we've now increased to 19 campuses in the Bay Area. And you see we kind of added those campuses year over year and program by program. We started out just as preschool. Our parents pretty much demanded that we move into a middle school, or into elementary. They then demanded that we move into a middle school, and now they're demanding we move into a high school, which we will probably establish in the near future. You see And we'll come back to this, but you'll see, even though we have a fair amount of density within the Bay Area, there's still a lot of white space and room to grow in the Bay Area. Our latest campus in the area, Milpitas, we opened just this past fall, and it opened virtually full, and that was the power of the brand name we've created in the Bay Area. So now we're moving down to Southern California. We have 3 campuses in Southern California, 2 of which we built, Melrose and Altadena, and then Mission Viejo is an ongoing concern that we acquired this year and are building that. So we believe that ultimately Los Angeles will be as big, if not bigger, than the Bay Area, given the demographics of the area. I live in Los Angeles. I happen to know the poor state of our education down there, so I know that we'll be just as big and powerful and successful down there. And then we will move on from there. We have a very strong team, other than the guy on the far left, and Sherry Adams, who is still with us, founder. We got Mike and our Chief People Officer, Wendy. We come from a variety of industries, not just the education industry, which adds to our depth and experience as a management team. Lots of multi-unit retail, so we know how to operate at scale. Because frankly, there's not very many schools like us operating at the scale we are. Most of them cannot or struggle getting beyond a couple schools. We're operating very efficiently, effectively at our scale. So let's talk a lot about academics, because like I said, that's the most important thing. So there's kind of 4 tenets to the way we approach our educational approach. So first is, and those of you with children know that high expectation equals high results. So for instance, we teach 1 to 3 years above the accepted state standards for a level. So if you're in first grade, we're actually teaching you kind of at the 3rd grade level. Our preschool, we'll talk a little bit about, we take an academic approach to preschool. You're learning to read before you get out of our preschool. So we expect a lot more out of our kids. But we do it in a very kind and caring way. We'll talk a little bit about that, so our kids are not burnt out and stressed out, by the time they're 4. Rich and balanced curriculum. This is actually, so a lot of times, and a lot of those images you will see will be around our STEM program. We have an incredibly strong STEM program, and it shows in our results in a number of ways. But the kids put on amazing arts programs. We do amazing plays. They sing and dance every day at the lower levels. So we talk about having a balanced STEAM curriculum. And that actually allows us to appeal to a broad swath of parents out there who don't just want them to be the next Einstein. They also want them to be a well-rounded child. Teachers make the difference. We put a lot of emphasis on our teacher selection, our teacher development, and our teacher evaluations. One of the great advantages we have as a private system is we can hold our teachers accountable to very high conducts of standards and outcomes. And learn and laugh in a caring environment. Our kids, if you go through our campuses, and would invite any of you to come out and see our campuses, you'll see the kids laughing and having fun at every level. One of the things in that video that you saw, I didn't point it out, or you may have seen it, was there was a science experiment that failed. And they kind of laughed about it. And we encourage the failure. We encourage the learning that goes along with that. So if we do it, we think we know, and we have demonstrably outsized results in terms of academic achievement as measured in standardized scores. We'll talk a little bit about that. Success outside of the classroom. I could bore you on and on and on about the various awards we win outside of the classroom. Math competitions. Our middle school in Raynor, one of our middle schools, came in 3rd in state in a recent California-wide math competition. We've won various contests at various levels. We had four out of only 81 perfect scores on the national Spanish exam this past year. So we achieve outside of the classroom in amazing ways. And then we get into, maybe this is the way we ultimately are judged, is what schools do we get our kids into. They get into the best high schools and eventually the best colleges. So lots of words on here. I will literally take the highlighter to this and highlight a few things on our academics approach. Basic phonic reading and skill building, begins in preschool. So we start with an academic approach in preschool. They have a lot of fun, but it's an academic approach. And as opposed to, there's a lot of programs out there that take a very play-based approach. Our curriculum starts in preschool and scales all the way through the 8th grade. But we still have a real emphasis on social and character development, and that continues throughout the years. And then we actually do robotics and coding in preschool. They're not writing Python in preschool, but they are learning basic computational problem solving and doing things with robots at 2 years, 6 months on up, so that they are introduced to these concepts very early on. As we move into elementary and middle school, once advanced curriculum, we go above the state standards, and that's how we get some of our outside results. Strong social skills and life skills are still enhanced through a variety of non-cognitive, cognitive, non-cognitive programs. And then we moved into advanced coding. We often talk about not only are we teaching Spanish the whole way, so typically our kids are fluent or proficient in Spanish, but they're also proficient in some of the more other important languages like Python. So let's talk a little bit. We actually have a fairly robust extended care and summer program, and part of the reason for that is 83% of our parents are dual income parents. So they need, actually, our schools pretty active until 6 p.m., and they pay us more for that. So they're fairly active. And then in the summer, we have a very high retention rate in the summer of parents taking advantage of our summer programs. And then we have after-school clubs that both enhance and complement the academic program. We have high participation rate, and even in middle school, we actually demand that they participate in the after-school program. So that's how they get their mandatory leadership development. All of these kids have to participate in a club that's doing things like fundraising or athletics so that they learn some leadership skills. And then we have things in the summer, as far as tutoring and kind of other fun things and academic things. So we get a very high retention in the summer. So how do we measure results? So SAT, they discontinued the SAT 10, but when we were taking that, they're now bringing it back, but our kids scored on average in the 91st percentile. So we had extraordinarily high results, and this is on average. This is all, of our, for all the kids taking this, this was our average score. So we moved to so I'll explain this. We moved to the ERB. This allows us to do a little more fine analysis against our independent school norms. So a lot of the SAT results are against the public schools. So you say, okay, well, you do really well against the public schools. How do you do against your independent school? So what this shows is on our ERB results on a variety of tests, how much higher than the independent school norm did we score? So if you look at it in 3rd grade in vocabulary, we scored about 13%, about 10, 12% higher than independent schools on norm. So one of the things, and then you only take algebra in 8th grade, we scored 50% higher than the national norm. So one of the things I really like about these results that we're showing is, so oftentimes many independent schools are accused of, well, you just take the best kids. My 2 responses are, 1, you can't cherry pick 6,000 students. It's just impossible. You can't have that many good students. But if you look at our results, we do get better kids. We're 13% higher on average when they start with us, but that spread against their independent school norms doubles over the time they're with us. So by the time they're 8th grade, they're scoring roughly 30% higher than the independent school norms. So we must be doing something right. That or the independent school kids are getting stupider. I don't think that's the case, though. So we're pretty proud of those results. Okay, my video doesn't work. We were trying to get it to work early. If you were to see my video, you'd see this incredibly well-spoken, one of our students who won the Bay Area City of the Future competition. We were highlighted on the local news. And I just picked this out of one of many things, and it's so impressive to watch this 7th grade child go toe-to-toe with a reporter as he's getting grilled and just talk about the wonder of engineering and how his teacher is so fantastic while he has his Stratford School logo on. We made him wear that. But it's just amazing. You know, you think about how much competition there must be in an engineering competition in the Bay Area. I mean, we are in the heart of the beast of Silicon Valley, and these are incredibly powerful teams out there, and we won it. And, you know, this year we didn't win it, we only came in second. You know, we have sustained outstanding results outside of the classroom. And like I said, I could go on and on citing lots of things that they do outside of the classroom, but they really do achieve at a very high level. And then they go to all the plus high schools and colleges. So if you're from the Bay Area, you recognize the places on the left-hand side. That's really what our parents care about, since we only go up to high school. But we do track them through college, and our kids have gone to every Ivy League school, plus Stanford, MIT, and a variety of other just outstanding schools. And this is probably the ultimate test of what parents hold us accountable to. Any questions on the, I think I got some time here, but any questions or comments on the academic results? Because it actually is the most important thing we do. It's the thing we spend the most time and care about, most about. Anything at the end. So what makes that easy then, if we do all that right and we do it right, it makes the business results relatively easy. That's one of the great things. Oh, I'm sorry, you had a question. So we are at our most efficient at 22 in the elementary grades. In the preschool, it's 1 to 12. In the elementary school, we like to get 1 to 22. We average around 1 to 18. So right around there is where we operate the most efficiently.
On the academic results, yeah, just on the academic results, you mentioned teachers and how important hiring and finding
Holding them accountable.
Okay, but what is it that leads to those academic results? What do you think it is?
You know, I truly believe it's having high expectations, it's having great teachers in the classroom, holding them to high standards, and you know, and that's really what we do. I mean, there's not a, you know, we were talking, if you were in the presentation earlier, somebody asked, is that the silver bullet? It's like, there is no silver bullet, right? If you saw my profile, you realize I came from the military, so I apologize for some of my, you know, this is hand-to-hand combat. You know, the kids, you're teaching them every single day, and it's, you know, it is an art and a science to teaching, and we put a lot of emphasis on that teaching skill. I don't think we have a great curriculum, and we have evolved the curriculum over years, but I think, you know, we kind of truly believe that it's as much, if not more, how you teach them as much as what you teach them.
Do you, or how would you characterize the involvement of the parents of these children in their academic success?
They're very involved. You know, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's something like 70-ish% of our parents have at least one advanced degree in the family. They tend to be dual income. So and education is very, very important to them. So they're very involved, and I think that is a big part of it. Now, where they aren't as involved as in our school as many other schools, and I can attest this from my wife is the president of our parent association, they don't have to do any fundraising. You know, that's one of, you know, because of our structure, everybody has to pay their tuition, but no, we don't ask for another dollar from you after that. So they don't have any of that involvement. So really they're involved in just helping out in the classroom, helping out on extracurricular events, field trips, and things like that.
Sorry, two questions on the financial side. One, what is the general price point, and does it change?
Good question.
And two, do you charge extra for the extracurricular activities?
Great question. So our price point is, and it depends on level, and we vary it for cost, but we're generally in kind of $16,000 to $20,000 per year tuition, which places us roughly in each of our markets about half of what the elite high schools or elite schools are charging, which are generally in the $35,000 to $50,000 range, and it's above the typically parochial schools that are charging anywhere from 8 to 12. So we get, you know, more. We do have a much higher quality than those lower, and we get kind of the same results at half the price of the elites. And and the extra, we, for the most part, do not charge for extracurriculars. What we do charge extra for is tutoring. We charge extra for the 8th graders just got back from their trip to Washington, D.C., so they have to pay for their travel expenses to D.C., but everything, for the most part, everything else, no book charges, no charges for everything. So it's an all-inclusive pricing.
You also said late pickup is an extra charge.
I'm sorry, yes, and late, the extended day gets charged extra. I'm sorry, yeah, that does.
And how about the financial aid question?
We generally do not give financial aid. So everybody pays their full way. So we don't do financial aid for the most part. Where we do give financial aid is tuition assistance to our teachers as a retention. But any other questions on that? Thank you for those. So just some financial highlights, really high retention of students equals a long life, equals a high LTV. Attractive unit economics, our campuses are all, once they get to a stabilized occupancy, they pay very well for themselves. Negative working capital, which is kind of nice. They pay in early for all of this. It's a really large, fragmented, attractive market opportunity. I truly believe that this model is more prevalent outside the United States than it is inside the United States. I'm a little surprised that it isn't more prevalent in the United States because it works really, really well. And our regional approach actually creates huge operating efficiencies. We have a very lean corporate staff that's able to do a lot of great services from marketing standpoint, curriculum development standpoint, professional development standpoint, is all handled with a very lean corporate staff. And that's how that's kind of the progression of campuses. One of the things that is also nice, you'll notice, we grew through a tech bubble burst, and we grew through the Great Recession. So it's a fairly cycle-resistant business. I will not say cycle-proof, but it's cycle-resistant. And then you see our build of students. That's actually an FTE count. Our student count is over 6,000. So what does the future hold? Like I said, our customer base, highly educated. Children's education is a priority. Dual income, mass affluent. So they're not the 1%, but they tend to be just kind of they have a fair amount of disposable income and they like spending it on their students, their children's education, and it's like the last thing they prioritize out of their budget. Growth areas, we have continued growth to grow our programs. We're going to add a high school. We have tons of white space in our current markets that we can fill in, both in LA and Southern and Northern California. We can move to new markets. International is an opportunity, and corporate work provide, especially because we have that good preschool base. And that, really, I know I'm running out of time here, but like I said, we can fill in our existing markets, and there's many markets which would have the demographics that would support something like this. And there's always international, I kind of usually get approached a lot by taking Stratford to outside of the United States, or especially once we have a high school, the ability to bring international students to us is nearly unlimited. So with that, do you mind if I go over here? Okay, and then we can talk after. There's a lot in that question. So our approach to real estate is we generally don't like to own the real estate. For a lot of variety of reasons. So if we do a purchase, which we've done many purchases, we'll do usually an immediate sale leaseback for like a 30-year term at pretty attractive, because of our scale and our financial viability, we actually get some pretty good rates on that. It just makes it a cleaner, just kind of a cleaner operation. And the CapEx can vary wildly because we've done some, you do some very cheap ones, which are old surplus schools that the school districts no longer need, to our Milpitas campus was the old Heald College when Corinthian colleges went belly up. We had to pour a bunch of capital into that, but it was profitable year one. So we kind of, you know, having a real estate background, Mike has actually pretty deep real estate experience as well from his previous experiences. We've actually put a lot of work over the last few years into really really getting good at our real estate game, because that is actually the hardest thing and the biggest hindrance to growth. So anyway, thank you guys for all your questions and your time, and we can talk later. Thank you.